Chapter 1. Nobody was created by accident. We are all here to fulfill a purpose. Most adults are stuck doing jobs they don't like and from which they find little to no fulfillment at all, but still can't quit because they have to pay the bills. A trustworthy survey found that only 13% of the world's workers are engaged in their jobs. That's a serious problem. It means the remaining 87% are frustrated, hate to wake up on work days, and yet can't seem to be able to do much about it. The numbers sadden you when you consider the fact that we spend a good part of our lives working. Most people spend more time on their jobs or activities related to their jobs than they do on anything else, including the time they spend on themselves and with family members. This begs a serious question. If we spend so much time working, could it be that the universe was designed to make us find fulfillment from work? And if that's so, aren't most of us missing something? At least we can draw insights from successful people who seem to have found their place in the world. All such people report finding fulfillment and satisfaction from their work. It's even a scientific fact. We humans have been proven to have only 3 sources of fulfillment: meaningful work, quality relationships, and a redemptive view of suffering. This was first made popular by the works of Austrian psychiatrist Viktor Frankl, a Holocaust survivor who had an intimate experience with severe suffering. Until we learn to move from seeing work as a means for survival to see it as a calling and a channel through which we impact the world, we would never stop being frustrated. You weren't designed to do every job that comes your way just for survival's sake. There's a specific path that has been cut out for you, a calling that you must realize and start living. Discovering and fulfilling your calling is the secret to lasting fulfillment. We all started as kids believing we are here to make a vital contribution to the world, but life happened and we dropped all those wonderful dreams because we have bills to pay. But you know deep down that you aren't living your best. You know there's more, and this summary is going to be your guide for rooting it out. A calling isn't something new and shiny. Often it's something old and predictable, a familiar face that's easily taken for granted, an old habit or hobby that comes back into our lives. Jeff Goins. Did you know? The Holocaust, also known as the Shoah, was the World War II genocide of the European Jews. The term was derived from 2 Greek words, holos, whole, and kostos, burned. It was used historically to describe a sacrificial offering burned on an altar. Chapter 2. There are no exact formulas for discovering your life's work, but there are guidelines that will help. Have you noticed that formulas rarely work in the context of human experience? The fact that your father worked for 38 years and retired rich is no guarantee that you'll be rich after working for 38 years yourself. You could create wealth earlier than that, and you could even die trying. That a man takes his wife out every weekend and they are happily married doesn't mean you have to do that same thing to have a happy home. The bottom line, formulas work better in math and physics than in practical human experiences. What governs life is not formulas, but principles. For every result you see in people, there is a governing principle, and that's what you should look out for, rather than the formulas they used. Recall our first example. For the woman whose father created wealth in 38 years, the best she can do is adopt the wealth creation principles he applied in his life. If she's able to grasp and implement them, chances are high she may even replicate the same result faster. Principles don't change, but tactics do. In the same vein, when we talk about finding your life's work, your goal shouldn't be to see how others did it, but to understand the principles behind it. Your experience will be unique, but principles will guide you. Your purpose is hidden in you and has been trying to find expression one way or the other all through your life. If you look back at your life so far and consider your experiences, gifts, and desires, you would notice a fine thread of purpose coursing through your experiences and passions. This, to some extent, depends on your age. The more years you've lived without walking in purpose, the harder it gets to piece your life together and see how your desires and experiences are pointing you to your life's work. But if you're diligent, you'll see it. Note that it won't be all clear at once, but you'll see that your current passion and the overarching desires you've had since childhood synchronize in a good way, pointing you in a specific direction. You won't know where the road will lead, but the best you can do is begin actively working in that direction. Clarity comes with action. Chapter 3. Action steps taken in faith are better than sitting and waiting for a miracle to happen. The reason some people will never fulfill their purpose in life is that they're waiting for a miracle to happen to them. They want a special event to hit them. They want the situation to be right before they take any steps. They are waiting to see the whole picture before they make a move. They don't want to move without knowing exactly where they are going to end. They want security and perfection, failing to realize that life itself is not perfect. Ask anyone who has achieved something great, and they'll tell you they didn't know how things would turn out before they started. There will be times you will leap without having a safety net to catch you, but taking action is always better than living in inaction. Of course, there's a difference between foolishness and leaping with faith. You don't just jump into the unknown without some level of preparation, but at the same time, you don't sit and wait for everything to be perfect. I used to think that your calling was about doing something good in this world. Now, I understand it's about becoming someone good and letting that goodness impact the world around you. Jeff Goins. Confused? Let's have an example. Imagine you're a married man who has been working as a programmer in a tech company for 15 years, but you want to start a business creating finance software for corporate organizations. You've always had a knack for helping businesses handle finances better, but you've not done anything about it all these years. Now you want to bring your dreams to life. What steps do you take? Do you quit your job to start a business? That wouldn't be a wise decision, considering you have a family to take care of and your savings can't take you for so long. Does it mean you have to abandon your dream? No, a wise thing to do is to come up with a plan, maybe a 2-year plan or 3 or shorter. Your plan should include starting the business on the side and saving money for when you'll leave your day job. What's important is that you have an action plan and you're not just waiting for a miracle to happen. Chapter 4. No man is an island. We all need the love and support of others. Self-made is a term that's common when talking about success. The personal sacrifices required to achieve success are enormous, and if you don't come from a wealthy home or don't have connections, your journey to success will be tougher. That, perhaps, is the rationale behind using self-made to describe successful people who come from underprivileged backgrounds. But no matter what, there's no one who achieves anything worthwhile on their own. You may be the main player, but you can't possibly do it alone. We all need guidance in this world. Without guidance, it's impossible to be successful. This kind of mentorship could come from the authors we read, our parents, friends, total strangers, colleagues at work, or the people we follow on social media. As you decide to take action towards actualizing your purpose, you'll find mentorship along the way. This will sometimes come in the most unlikely of ways, but you must not miss it. Keep your eyes open for such mentorships so you can embrace them when they come. The best part is that mentors are everywhere. The more work you put into your dreams, the more you rise and the more mentorship opportunities that open up to you. The caveat is that you have to intentionally decide to learn from people when they show up. Humility is a requirement for mentorship. Thanks to the internet, you no longer have to wait to meet mentors in person. There are so many online resources you can learn from. Chapter 5. Avoid the effort excuse. You can exceed your expectations. Sometimes we go through life explaining a lack of excellence with the excuse that we gave it our best. This has become the default shrug-it-off response for most people whenever they are facing failure. At least I tried. And what more could anyone ask? The effort excuse is used whenever individuals encounter a challenge that exceeds their abilities. For many people, there's a fundamental problem with the understanding of their own capabilities. Often, humans exceed their own expectations of themselves, and in spite of this, humans continue to believe in the myth of talent, that some people are born a certain way and that they cannot rise above their circumstances and achieve something greater than they've ever done before. However, with enough encouragement and self-motivation, anyone can achieve whatever they set out to achieve. If you change the way you think, you can accomplish more. Hardwired in our brains and bodies is a potential greater than we realize, and all we have to do to unlock it is believe. According to psychology professor Carol Dweck, most people adhere to one of two mindsets: the fixed mindset or the growth mindset. With the fixed mindset, people are born with a certain number of finite abilities and cannot exceed those abilities. With the growth mindset, however, potential is unlimited. You can always get better. For this kind of person, the goal is not so much to be the best in the world, but to be better than you were yesterday. Regardless of natural talent or the lack thereof, every person has the ability to improve themselves. The term deliberate practice was first coined by K. Anders Ericsson, a Swedish psychologist at the University of Florida, whose research claimed that talent is not the cause of excellence. Practice is. As children, we are courageous and willing to fail, but as we get older, we acquire inhibitions. Our shame reflex kicks in. Unwilling to try new things, we settle for good when called to greatness. Why do we do this? Because it's easy. To push ourselves past what others expect, beyond what is normal, is difficult and sometimes awkward, but it is a necessary part of the process. Sometimes the only way to know the difference between a hobby and a calling is to put yourself through the crucible of painful practice. Chapter 6. Failure is part of the success equation. People dread failure because of how society paints it. In the eyes of the world, failure means you're not smart enough, but that is simply not true, at least hardly so. We need to change our views on success and failure. Think of it this way: success is the destination, and failure is merely a stop in the way. Let's use the popular bicycle riding illustration to explain this. When learning to ride a bicycle, falling is inevitable, but falling doesn't mean you aren't doing something right. It simply means your body is trying to adjust to a new skill. That's how it is with your life's work. Your purpose is something you've never done before. You're treading new grounds, and you don't even know exactly what you're doing, so failing in some things is inevitable. Don't let failure weigh you down, and don't let anyone use it against you. Remove failure from your vocabulary. Call it a learning process instead. Failure can either last a lifetime or be seasonal. The first one is what you should avoid at all costs, but the second type of failure is normal. Lifetime failures are products of barking up the wrong tree. You can be successful doing the wrong thing, and that is very bad. Do this. When you see yourself going in a direction contrary to your dreams and passions, pause, go on a retreat, and really think about what you're doing. Change directions if it doesn't align with your deepest desires. Conclusion. If we're all here to each fulfill a specific purpose, then we're only successful to the degree to which we are living our purpose, and it all starts with discovering why you are here. We've established that purpose discovery doesn't happen overnight. It follows a process. You'll get ideas on what you should be doing with your life. It will come as an internal longing for a particular cause or an unusual fascination for a specific field of human endeavor. That longing in itself is not your purpose, but it's prompting you into discovering more. The more you take action on your promptings, the more clarity you get. Patience is important in all these. You can't force things when it's not yet time. The best you can do is take action and believe that you are getting ahead. The reason you can't just rush into it is that there are skills that you need to acquire along the way, and these take time. You won't even know all the skills needed when you begin, but when you look back after several years, you'll see the skills you've acquired and the maturity you've attained over time and realize that you wouldn't have been effective in performing your life's work without them. If purpose discovery is the beginning of your life's work, what is the crown of it? Is it death? Certainly not. Death surely marks the end of your sojourn, but not necessarily the end of your work. Your work is supposed to outlive you. You make this happen by passing on your legacy. The crown of your life's work is when you're able to replicate yourself in others whose paths are similar to yours. Try this. Think about the work you'd like to be remembered for after you die. Start doing it if you haven't, because that's your purpose right there.